sound a little disjointed. It is because I am out of sync. I'm doing this show at 11 o'clock in the morning here in Boise. Notice how I do that, Boise. I am a local. Idaho, Salt and Light Radio Network, because we are working with them, cooperating with them to produce 4 tapings of Living Right with Dr. Ray, the TV show, and they have generously and graciously invited us in, and they're taking pictures here. And this is bad because this is not a good hair day. You know how you're getting old? You know how you can tell you're getting old? When you look at your driver's license picture and you say, you know, that's not a bad picture. That's true. I'm starting to look like it. Now, and I've been noticing more and more, I'm saying, no, that's not a good picture of me. No, I don't like that picture. That one's not a good picture. My wife says, Ray, that's what you look like. Those are accurate pictures of you. Good to have you here on The Doctor Is In. Number to get onto the program is the same number as if I were back in Ohio. It's 877-573-7825, 877-57 I have got my buddies here, Tom and Brian, in the studio, manning. I guess I can say that. Yeah, I can say that. I don't want to assume, but I'm going to. Manning the place. And you, if you call, 877-573-7825. That's 10 numbers. Now, all the research that I remember back in my grad school days when we dealt with kind of different aspects of memory said 7 bits of data is the optimum number of data that people remember. And that worked fine when you had 7-digit telephone numbers. Well, now everything is an area code. So I've got to break this up for you. The number is 877-57 equal. There, 3 pieces of data for you to remember to get onto the program. I'm a psychologist, clinical psychologist, and I also have a degree, not an official degree, but I was trained as a researcher also. And I love when people write me these emails. You need to look at the research. You need to know how to interpret research. And I just want to say, look, part of my PhD is research. So please. Anyway, if you'd like to get on, because I'm a psychologist, we can talk about situations in your life circumstances, things that befuddle you, perplex you, give you conundrums, flummox you. That's a good word, isn't it? Flummox. I like that word. Or something you want to comment about. We had a couple calls yesterday on COVID, and of course this happens every time. Whenever the COVID thing comes up, whenever you raise any kind of questions regarding the balance of our approach to this whole thing, immediately you're going to get emails. I do. They send me these emails and they tell me that I'm awful and terrible and evil and I don't love people and that I'm not understanding and that I'm trivializing. And I'm thinking, I didn't say any of that. I didn't say, don't tell people not to get the vaccine. I never have told anybody not to get the vaccine. I got the vaccine. So it says one thing. It simply says how emotionally distraught and fear-driven many people are. They don't realize what they tell you when they write this stuff because they assume that they're correcting you, but indeed they're telling you a lot about their own perspective on this. I had one lady say to me, may God forgive you. And I'm thinking to myself, wait. It's a sin now to have a perspective that is different than your perspective. Okay, I guess that's how it's decided now. It's now to have a different perspective is a sin. Whoo. Okay, enough of that. I don't want to whine, complain, So, get on the program, 877-573-7825. We're doing 2 more tapings of the Living Right with Dr. Ray show tonight. We had nice audiences come yesterday. The audiences really make the show, no question. They add to the energy level. They add to the fun. They ask questions. And some of the audiences they look good, too. That's true. We had to do some work. And we usually separate people out according to IQ. We get the higher IQ in front and toward the back. And it takes a little while to test everybody, but... And Brian, no offense, buddy, but you were way in that fact, you were not even in the last row. You were kind of out that back door. So, if you'd like to come, we're taping. They set up a beautiful studio, Our Lady of the Rosary Church here in Boise, 5 and 7 p.m. If you'd like to come, we'd love to have you. You don't have to sign up now because the days of signing up are over. So just show up. We'd love to see you there. Okay, enough of that. Parents get frustrated a lot with their kids. And they get frustrated most of the time surrounding discipline. Why? Well, let me just give you a little primer on some of the more common reasons parents get frustrated. We can't go into a whole lot of detail, obviously. We don't have that much time. This is an opening monologue. Let me give you a couple of the big ones. One, you wait too long to act. If the kids are carrying on and you're warning and you're nagging and you're threatening and you're reasoning and you've told them 12 times, you're going to get to the point where you want to scream your guts out. You don't say, Rocky, Bruno, I'm beginning to sense in myself anger pangs. And because this has gone on for 38 minutes, I'm fearful that I might raise my voice. And that is not something that I wish to entertain. No! You want to do something that you regret and you had to go to confession for. Bless me, Father, I was so much holier before children. I really was a nice person. I liked myself. So you wait too long. The other thing you do is you take it personal. If that kid is acting up, you don't automatically assume it's your fault. Somehow your parenting is deficient. So he's doing this because if you were following the right formulas, he wouldn't be acting this way. The reality is he's a kid, and they act all kinds of bad ways. That's just who they are. That's who we are, isn't it? We don't really outgrow it. So you look at it and you think to yourself, especially among conscientious parents, you think to yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why is he doing this? Why does he act? Why did he pull a stunt like that? My kids have never stole. Why did he steal that? It's my fault. That's what you do, and you get very frustrated. That's two. Here's another one. You future project. What's this going to lead to? You know, he stole a Matchbox car from a drugstore. Is he going to be a thief when he's 22? You future project. You take the behavior that occurs now, and instead of just dealing with it in the now, you speculate. You do what-ifs about what the future holds for the wretched psyche of this kid if he doesn't straighten out. That's another reason you get frustrated. Fourth reason, you expect your kids not to be kids. They pull all kinds of scrap. I'm writing a new book. I'm working on it on what I've learned from my own children. And one of my chapter titles is Expect the Unexpected. Of course, if you expect the unexpected, it's not unexpected, right? I mean, it's kind of expected. So it's really a dumb chapter title, but I'm hoping nobody catches it. Given that, they pull all kinds of junk because they're kids, because they are only partially conscience-formed. And they come into the world completely self-centered. They think the universe is here to rotate around them. And we, as Christians, can say, sin nature, bent toward the self. And we acknowledge that, but then when they act according to their sin nature, we wonder, what's wrong? Why did this happen? This is awful and terrible. So those are just a few of the reasons that parents frustrate themselves over what their kids do. Probably the big one is you got to act earlier in the chain. Most parents use way too many words, too much nagging, too much threatening, too much negotiating, too much carrying on before they finally have had enough. And then they explode. That's what we dads do, you know, tolerate, ignore, explode. It's kind of what we do. So, if you are not frustrated and you'd like to call in, I promise I won't frustrate you. 877-573 7825. Now, the computer monitor is sitting to my right, so I cannot see it as I talk into this microphone. So I don't even know who is on the call. So I got to turn to look to see who's there. But I do appreciate your company. Take one of my many breaks, and I'll be back. Thinking at very close to the speed of thought. I've seen those stats on how fast neurological, electrochemical signals go in the brain. It's really pretty fast. I mean, if there was a trooper up there, he'd probably pull you over. But some of us have slower neurological pathways than others. Good to have you with me, Dr. Ray Guarendi. Program Doctor is in. Number 877-57-EQUAL. You'd like to get on to ask a question, make a comment, ask something generic. Dr. Ray, this whole idea about hypnosis into past lives, is that legit? Okay, so that taps into the question coming up right here from Andrea, Cedar Rapids. Hi, Andrea.
Hi.
You know, you are asking and tapping into the enormous amount of confusion that is now all swirling around our children every which way. What did you hear?
It was years ago, and I can't remember the source, but I thought somebody told me that as a psychologist, they were not supposed to try and guide a biological boy into being comfortable in his skin. If he had decided that he was a girl, they were supposed to make him comfortable with that decision.
That is true. That is
that
is true. There is definitely that movement within the helping professions that says if someone comes in and says, I have same-sex attraction and I would like to change that, or I would like to at least learn to live with it in a moral sense, or, for example, I've had in the past, I've had guys come in who were married, but they had a lot of same-sex attraction, and they wanted help with that. We now are not, I don't know if it's an official stance, I'd have to plead ignorance on this, but it's definitely an unofficial one, which is we are not to do any kind of gender reassignment counseling. It's an interesting thing, is it not? So in other words, anybody who comes into my office with virtually any kind of problem whatsoever and says, I do not like the way I'm thinking, I do not like my inclination, can you help me? Now, pretty much anything you can, except this area. If somebody comes into my office, Andrea, and she's a girl, she's 5'3", she's 15 years old, and she weighs 82 pounds, and she has a significant eating problem. And she says, I see myself as a fat person. I look in the mirror, and all I see is this overweight, overblown, and I'm just not comfortable with my body image. If I were to say to her, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to get you on some diet pills, and I'll refer you for gastric bypass. And what we can do is we can get your weight down to 62 so you can be much more comfortable with your body image. Now, that would be severe malpractice. But yet at the same time, if someone comes in and says, I'm struggling with this, I need to sort it out, I don't know where the factors are coming from, I don't know why this is, I have to say, well, this is something I'll refer you to someone else because I am not really permitted to delve into this. I know. What you heard, even if you heard it years ago, was strong trending that way.
Very shocking. And it makes it sound like we should start paying attention to conspiracy theories because this is just another dot to connect when it comes to the destruction of human society.
There are two things the philosopher said that makes people behave. One is an inner moral system. The other is the point of a gun. Those are really the only two things that can make a culture behave. And as that moral system goes, there are more and more dictates, and we are less free. Hey, thanks, Andrea.
I got one more thing to say.
Yeah,
Wait, can I say
ahead.
one more thing?
Well, as long as it's a compliment, yeah, you can. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're great. We got to get you up here for a conference. But what I want to say is about anger. And a long time ago, I decided there are so many things to be angry about. I decided it's exhausting. Being angry is just too exhausting. So I had to give it up.
I think that's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful, because I'm getting more and more people coming to me saying, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I look around me, I don't like what I see, I don't like what I'm hearing. And you're right, it is exhausting, and part of my dealing with it is I ignore a lot of it. I just recognize very quickly what I can do and what I can't do. And for the most part, I try to move forward with my life and be as faithful as I could possibly be with God's help. But other than that, I'm paying less and less attention to the things I can't do anything about.
Well, the thing you do is you get the truth out, and that's what we can do. Whenever there's an untruth, you can point it out, and shows like yours, we can get the truth out, and eventually it should overcome, right?
I would not be so presumptuous as to say I get the truth out. Because, first of all, much of what we talk about isn't necessarily truth, not truth. It's a perspective. That's the first thing. However, what I will say I like to do is ask questions. Get people to think. Connect
ask
dots
smart questions.
to
we need
reason.
to ask smart questions.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And you know as well as I do, you get in trouble when you ask questions that make people think outside of where they want to think. It's very, very true. We've become one of the big dangers in our society, as I see it, is we've become less and less willing to entertain any ideas different than our own. And unfortunately, there's a censorship that's going on, that for anyone to bring up some perspective that is outside of the defined perspective that one must have in order to be appropriate in our society, and people of faith are outside that narrative much of the time. So people of faith can't even raise questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's kind of a guideline that I go by. If you get canceled on social media, you're one of the good guys.
That's it, huh? I got it. Yeah, you're right. And there is research that indicates that people with more traditional perspectives, or that excuse me, are outside of the defined media-powered narrative, are the ones most likely to be shut down. And that's frightening. It truly is frightening. Hey, thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, dear.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Michael, Midland, Texas. You know, Midland was one of the first stations that I went to many, many years ago, Guadalupe Radio Network. And that's a powerhouse network right now down there and all that whole area. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you doing?
Okay.
Good.
What's up?
So my question, I kind of was going to start off with a little bit of a back to explain my question, but my sister, both me and my sister were raised cradle Catholics. We were homeschooled, catechized, everything. When my sister moved to Lubbock, maybe 4 or 5 years ago or so, I think she kind of stopped practicing. And she started dating a guy a couple of years ago, and they're going to be getting married now in December or so. And I've talked to her about getting married within the Catholic Church, the various options that you can have for a Catholic to marry a non-Catholic, and still have it be a valid marriage. But she has not wanted to do any of that. And now my mom my mom and my dad are actually going to be paying for some of it, and so my parents will be going to it. And I have decided that in order to not present scandal to both my sister and her future husband and everyone else, that I am not going to attend. But my mom has been kind of wanting me to attend, because she says that if I don't attend her wedding, then I'm going to sever any future relationship with her.
That's always the way it is. That's always the way it is. Excuse me. Yeah. Michael, a couple things. First of all, I got a tickle in the throat. You guys don't have a cough button in here, do you? No cough button?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Unfortunately, I would say my rough estimate, very, very rough estimate, 6.23579% of the time that someone says, I want to act within my conscience and do or not do something, and the family member disagrees, in a case like this, you will get shunned. You will, like your mother says, there will be a severing of the relationship, which I find fascinating because it amazes me that they can't simply say, well, I don't agree with you. However, I'm going to respect the fact that that's how you think. I think it's wrong. However, again, I'm not going to write you out of my life. That happens very seldom. And it says something to me as a psychologist. It truly does. It says that the person who wants tolerance is extremely intolerant. All right. Now, that said, I have seen priests come down on both sides of this. Respected priests that would be considered very faithfully orthodox, who have said it's a prudential judgment where you weigh how much damage will be done. That if, in fact, you lose the relationship with your sister, or if, in fact, you even sever some of the relationship with your mother, then you weigh this, and you decide, okay, am I going to create scandal? Well, in the first place, sadly, it's getting harder to create scandal because nobody even knows what the morals are anymore. But stay right there. I got more to say about this, Michael. 877-573-7825. Dr. Ray. It's Dr. Ray Guarendi here at Boise, Idaho. Again, inviting you tonight, Our Lady of the Rosary Catholic Parish. We are taping the final 2 tapings. That's redundant, isn't it? Superfluous pleonasm. We are taping 2 episodes. Would they even be episodes? Programs, shows? What do you call them? What's the official word to call them? Programs? A TV? All right. Programs for Living Right with Dr. Ray, which is the TV show that airs on EWTN television. The tapings are for the 11th season to be aired some months from now. Would love to have you in the audience. I had some nice audiences yesterday, and folks are signing up for today. You don't have to sign up at this late date. Just come on in. And those of you with the big homeschooling families, show up. Bring the kids. We had some great kids yesterday that worked out fantastic. So come on in. We'd love to have you. The tapings are at 5 and 7. Come for 1. You can come for 2. If it stinks, you can leave halfway through. That's okay. Just wait for a break, though. It really looks bad when people are getting up and walking out while I'm talking. Yeah, it's not good TV. EWTN has talked to me about that, and I said, I can't stop them. I mean, they said, well, Ray, we don't mind a couple of them leaving, but you had half your audience leave. I go, yeah, I know, but they'll come back. So I hope to see you. Now, I'm talking to Michael. Mike, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me summarize this for the folks who just might be coming around. Michael's sister has pretty much left the Catholic faith. She's getting married outside of the church. Michael's mother is supporting the wedding financially and otherwise. And Michael says, I'm having trouble with this. I feel like I would be creating scandal to simply say, okay, you just as a Catholic have decided you're going to do it your way and you're going to get married elsewhere. And I made the observation, a kind of tongue-in-cheek observation, it's getting harder and harder to create scandal because nobody really knows what the morals are and what the expectations are at so many levels. That's one. However, to summarize, I have heard priests come down on both sides of this issue. They seem to weigh it in terms of how much damage it will create to the relationship. Now, Michael already says if he doesn't go, he's done. They're going to shut him out. Your mom too, Michael? Will your mom say that's it?
Well, not exactly. Like, cause I think my mom is actually probably more so concerned of it than my sister. Like my sister, when I told her that I wasn't going, she was pretty bummed. But I was spending the night over her apartment, and she didn't kick me out or anything. She has made some comments to my mom afterwards that she was rather upset about it. But at least at the immediate for right now, she is not. She was upset about it, but not terribly in my face about it or anything.
She going to write you off?
I honestly don't really know, because one of the things that I was telling my mom is that she basically, so we can have really good cordial relationships and talk about sort of superficial things, and even sometimes not superficial things. Like I try to ask her how work is going and how her life is going in those regards, and with her friends and stuff. But anytime that I approach anything about religion, that's when she immediately cuts me out. So essentially, I guess I don't really quite understand from what my mom has, from my mom's point of view, because she already doesn't like to listen to me anyways. And so
your mom doesn't want to listen to your mom doesn't want to listen to you?
My sister. I'm sorry.
Oh, your sister.
My
Okay.
sister. And she doesn't want to listen to my parents either.
Yeah.
So my mom thinks that by us, or by me attending this wedding, that later on down the line I'll be able to help to bring her back into the Catholic faith. But I don't see how I can do that, because she already doesn't want to hear anything about the Catholic faith from me, or anything about God.
Well, here's where the priests come down on the side of saying possibly attend, which is that without a relationship with her, even though right now that relationship can't touch upon matters of religion, without a relationship, you got no chance. Nothing's going to happen. So that's the first thing. So the question becomes, will the relationship be so damaged that not only can you not talk religion, but you can't talk anything, because she pretty much has decided you are unloyal and you have dissed her. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, you can make this decision as you decide best. Be ready for the repercussions. If you're not going to go, my suggestion would be you sit down with your sister and you tell her how much you love her, and you tell her, in fact, this has nothing to do with her. This is your decision, because she was raised Catholic and she has just simply decided not to do what she was raised with, and in fact what she had believed for some time. And you recognize that, and you can't do anything about it, but you are asked to act according to your own conscience. Now, maybe she'll accept that. Probably not. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you can say, I'm going to go because I really don't want to lose your relationship, but you know where I stand with this. The fact that you are still Catholic, but you've just decided to do it your way, is something that is very, very, very difficult for me to go with. And as a result, I don't want to alienate you, but you got to know where I stand in no uncertain terms. And that seems to me to be your choices on that.
Gotcha.
So I know, my friend, this is happening all the time. It's just happening all over the place. And as I said earlier, it doesn't amaze me anymore because I've seen so much of it. But people are not allowed to have a moral perspective. If you do, you are now judgmental. If you do, you are intolerant. And no one sees the irony in me accusing you of intolerance if you don't do it my way. That's just the ultimate irony, but I see I could probably count in my hand the number of times that I have seen people recognize that and say, I'm kind of being intolerant too, aren't I? My brother, he's still faithful, but he wants to act according to his faith, and I can't take that. I just can't. That's kind of intolerant on my part, isn't it? Yeah, it's very much true. The new definition of tolerance is tolerance for the appropriately defined perspectives. That's the new definition of tolerance. Tolerance is not all-encompassing anymore. All right, Michael. Thank you, my friend. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You still got another minute. Go ahead.
When they were first talking about the wedding in the beginning, they initially she had spoken about having a Catholic wedding, and there was concern about certain parts of the words that would be said during the wedding or at the Mass that her fiance's family members might be uncomfortable with, and so they were concerned that her fiance's family members weren't going to come, and so that's kind of what I mentioned to her, is that, hey, well, in the beginning you decided not to do a Catholic. You were talking about doing a Catholic wedding, but then you decided, well, his family might not come because of it being a Catholic wedding. But then now that it's a Protestant wedding,
we're all just so tolerant, aren't we? Just tolerance for everyone. Right. You don't say the right words in your wedding, I ain't coming. I'll tell you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is more and more the culture we're living in, and I think the Lord says they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. And this isn't persecution in the serious sense, but it's ugly nevertheless. 877-573-7825. Remember, you call anytime during the program. You get through because we don't take calls in chronological order. Not necessarily. So I want to hear from you. Thanks. One of the problems here in doing the radio program on the day that I tape, I came in this studio with my hair looking good. Tonight, I'm going to have this big divot in my head, foam dome, from these headsets, and you can't get it out. So people look at me on TV on the program and go, "What? His head looks kind of flat. Sort of dips right in there." So what I do is I try to put stuff in it, to kind of, we have chips and things like that, and I just kind of put it in there to make it even. And you can't tell on TV. You really can't. I'm too short. The camera's always looking at me from a different angle. Let's see. Paula from North Dakota. She had a similar situation, and this situation is happening more and more and more and more. It's a byproduct of how many young adults leave the faith, culturally shaped. Hi, Paula.
Hello.
Thanks for the call.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I married a man that we were, again, my ignorance back then, married a man outside the church, and he had kids, I had kids, and then we had kids. And I brought my kids to Catholic church, and he never brought his kids to church. He was Assembly of God. And so my kids always went to church. He never went to church. His kids never went to church. They were never baptized. Then when we had kids, it took me a while to convince them to get them baptized and then get them into Sunday school. And so, again, I bring my kids and our kids, but his kids have never gone. And so now when one of them got married with the JP downtown at an event center, I just really felt like this isn't appropriate or something that I should be going to. So I questioned it and emailed my priest. Father Ken got back to me the next day right after church and said, okay, she is, number one, she's not baptized. It's not in it's at an event center. It's not going to be a blessed sacramental marriage. And because of the strife between you and your husband, religion sometimes, he said, to save harmony and peace in the family, it would be okay or appropriate to attend the wedding. And I wasn't in the wedding, so that's not a big deal either.
Well, Paula, here's my question. The child, the young adult who got married, is not Catholic, right?
Right.
So she was not under any obligation to get married according to the Catholic discipline. That'd be like me saying I can't go to a friend's wedding who's Methodist because he's Methodist. No, I can go because he's not Catholic. The problem comes in if she were Catholic and then she said, no, I'm gonna do it in an event center with a civil service. That's different. But did the priest not know that your stepdaughter was not in fact raised in any church whatsoever?
Yeah, he did know that. So that was just maybe something that wasn't clarified or misunderstood. But so that sets my mind even at more ease then.
But he did say, under the assumption that he said because of the possible severe conflict with your husband and with these stepkids, that you might they know you're Catholic, they know where you stand, that you're doing this almost to keep the peace.
Yeah.
Now, some people would argue with that, and they would say, well, no, Paula, because you don't sacrifice your morals to keep the peace. But again, it does come down, at least from all the many priests I've talked to, it does come down a lot to what would be the fallout if you simply say, I'm not going. I had a similar situation in my own family. My daughter is in the military, and she was married in the military, and I don't believe it was a situation that was involving the church. Well, as she got a little bit older, she realized, hey, I want to practice my faith that I was raised in, and they had their marriage blessed. The night before, we went out to San Diego, because that's where they were going to get married. The night before, she said, well, Dad, I want you to walk me down the aisle. And I said, Hanny, I can't. I love you, but I can't. She goes, Dad, we're married. And my wife said, well, honey, I know you think you're married according to the church. She goes, Dad, we're married. And at that point, she said, remember, I told you on Christmas we had our marriage blessed in the church. And I went, Hanny, I didn't hear that. Your old man is just telling kids to get off his lawn. He didn't hear that. But I remember the incredible relief I had when I said, sure, I can do that for you, baby. No problem.
Yeah,
So.
And then same thing with me. As I've learned, taken a basic Catholic beliefs, and again, I wasn't married in the church, and realizing, okay, now I have sacrificed, or I am now no longer eligible for sacraments. So I still bring my kids to church. They go to religious school. I still go up and receive a blessing, but due to my own fault, and my husband won't convalidate our marriage, so it is upon me to still practice my faith to the best I can.
Well, you know something? I got to tell you here, Paula. What you're doing in a lot of respects is so faithfully obedient that you are willing to do that. You are willing to say, at the height of inconvenience, at the height of what 90-some% of people would say, well, the heck with it, I'm going to do what I want anyway. You're doing that.
Oh, yeah.
That
is.
Yes,
because I go up at communion time, I cross my arms, I get the blessing, and people obviously would know, mortal sin, but I'm still there participating, doing the best that I can because.
Well, maybe they know you ate a half an hour ago. They could have known that too. You know, you could just look. Here's what you do: you carry up a candy wrapper, and it just make it look like you had candy in the car before you came in. You forgot.
Right.
Bless your heart, dear. Nice call. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
All righty, one last segment coming up. You want to get on it? Take your chances. If you give a call, you could get on 877-573-7825. Thank you. I can't help it. I dated a girl once. This was way, way back. We were talking about something, and she said, quit being a psychologist. And I said, how do I do that? Just be Ray. And I thought, well Ray is a psychologist. There's just a certain way of thinking that gets shaped when you spend your life listening to people and trying to understand and looking at human motivations and thoughts and feelings and connecting the dots, which leads me to what I want to say here. I have thought often and long about the idea that so many people get so angry if you, believing in religious principles and believing in obedience to the church that our Lord established, decide you want to live a certain way. Whether that's homeschooling, whether that is approaching COVID in a certain way, whatever it might be, and they get very, very angry toward you. Very angry. We're talking hostile, antagonistic, terribly so. I mean, some of the things that have been said toward people that don't agree with a particular moral narrative or a particular perspective are so vile. And I'm thinking, okay, using the psychological principle, you're telling me a lot about yourself when you're talking and accusing someone else. What is this? And I recognize it really comes down to a fragile self-image. Now, I hate to use this self-image talk because it's overblown and it's talked about too much. Why is it that I can't say, well, okay, that's the way you think. I don't agree with it. I think it's misguided. I think it could hurt you. It could be real problematic for you. But I recognize that's the way you think. The fact that so many take your thinking, your perspective, personally as an insult to them, as an attack on them. Why would they do this? Why can't they simply say, I will allow you to think and act as you morally are guided? Now, some might say, well, you know why that is? It's because down deep they know you're morally correct. And there's a flicker. There's a flicker in them that recognizes that you're right, and they can't just accept that because it would say something about their immoral outcome. No, I don't believe that's the main part of it. I think the main part of it is you're not giving me my due. You're not respecting me. In the street language, you are dissing me. I think that's really what it comes down to. So I guess my suggestion here is for those of you who are confronting that kind of attitude, rather than getting angry at it, tell yourself, this person is really fragile. This person is really sensitive. Michael's called with his sister. Now, if she writes her brother off because in his conscience he says, I can't go. I can't go and witness your marriage outside of the church when you are a baptized Catholic. And she says, she hasn't yet, but it's whiffing in the background, that she could simply not talk to him for a year or 2 or 3, or her husband could say, your brother's a jerk. Stay away from your brother. What does that say about her, that she is willing to write off a sibling relationship because he makes a moral decision that she disagrees with? She has no reason to say he's wrong. How could she say that? Because she's not doing anything that's morally involved as far as she's concerned. I'm getting married the way I want to get married. This is not a moral question. So when he says, I have a moral system that I'm going to follow for me, and it just so happens to affect some behavior that I'm going to do toward you, she has to take that and say, that's so egregious, that is so off-putting, that is so personally assaulting, that I'm going to write you out of my life. What does that say about someone who could be willing to do that? And don't kid yourself. It happens all the time. It's a fascinating phenomenon. And as this old girlfriend, honey, I didn't date her very long. I just took her out a couple times. Don't worry about that. And it was before I met you. This old girlfriend saying to me, Ray, quit being a psychologist. Well, I can't help that. I can't help that because that is the way I've been shaped to think. And if someone comes into my office and essentially says, I don't speak to my mother. Why don't you speak to your mother? Because she did this. Are you Christian? Yes. I go to Mass every day. Ah, well, that's interesting. You don't speak to your mother. Why? Well, let me tell you why. And then they proceed to describe some piece of behavior that, yeah, if you looked at it, you could say a mother was out of line. Yeah, she was. Or sometimes it's just she did something I don't agree with. And you've written your mother off? What does that say about? What does that say about you? That's scary, you see. Because St. John, in one of his letters, says, don't say that you love God when you don't love the people around you. How can you love something you don't see if you can't love what you do see? That's just St. John. So, it's fascinating to me. It always is. And you know what? It always comes down to moral issues of a sexual nature or of some type of marital nature. That's what it comes down to. Somebody doesn't say, I'm going to write you out of my life. You know why I'm going to write you out of my life? Because you stole. That's right, you stole. So don't even talk to me. Or you cheat on your taxes. Get out of my life. No, it's almost always something related to marital or sexual conduct. Almost always. All right, I got to go here. Let me look at the clock here. Oh yeah, I don't got much time left. Thanks for joining me here again. I invite you tonight, Our Lady of the Rosary Church in Boise. Now, those of you who are coming from Illinois, you might want to leave now. All right, especially if you're driving, you'll gain a couple hours with the time change, but you better hurry. Shows are at 5 and 7. The tapings. Love to have you there. Got the guys here tonight that were You were there, Brian, right? And he liked it. He really did. He only dozed off twice. It was twice. And we usually have somebody in the audience to wake folks up. So, I hope to see you. Once again, Our Lady of the Rosary in Boise. And that's it. After tonight, we're leaving. We're out of here. I'm heading back to Ohio. End of the program. Thanks, guys, for hosting me here in Boise in your very nice studio, which completely lacks any picture of me whatsoever anywhere. Could at least have my senior picture up. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, Andrew Kruchek. Thanks, Eric Dumont, Call Screamer, Andrew Kruchek, Producer Man, and all of you for keeping me company. Walk with God and show His love to others.